She's got long legs and short shorts, but she ain't got no teeth. She wears a red bandana on her head, and she smiles so sweet. She'll steal your heart, a very first sight should rip apart your soul. She'll torture your mind and waste your time and drag you down the road, 'cause she's a Jezebel, St. Andrew Jezebel, 'cause she's a Jezebel, St. Andrew Jezebel.
Hey y'all, you're listening to the St. Andrews Jezebel Podcast. My name is Ashley Feller. I'm a third-generation Panama City native. I'm a Floriopolis volunteer, and I'm also a singer-songwriter in the area. This week for our guest, we've got Nicole Phillips, who is the executive director of Lavished Ministries, which is a local nonprofit who since 2014 have been embracing, engaging, and empowering women in Bay County who currently work or have transitioned out of the commercial sex industry and might also be victims of human trafficking. I've also got some great community events up ahead. There's a ton of wonderful, fun things happening in St. Andrews, so make sure you stick around for that. And this week's old news segment comes from the St. Andrews Bay News, December 4th, 1928, and it's actually an ancient prayer that I believe has stood the test of time and I think holds a lot of virtue, especially for this time of year. Well, y'all, I hope you're comfy. You've got your nice fuzzy blanket. You've got your nice cold beer, or maybe a cup of hot chocolate, maybe a nice coffee. Whatever makes you happy, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So these are the community events for December the 2nd through December the 8th. Starting on Thursday, it's singer-songwriter collaboration night at the Library on Beck starting at 6 p.m. And then on Friday, Panama City Comedy presents Ben Brainerd at House of Bourbon. This is December 3rd at 7:30 p.m. The cover is $25, and you can pre-buy your tickets on Eventbrite.com. Also on Friday, the business community of Historic St. Andrews invites you to join them for an evening of community, family, and supporting local businesses and restaurants. Several of the bars and restaurants will be having drink specials, and most of the shops will be open a little later to help you with your holiday shopping. So come enjoy the lights and all the beautiful holiday decor in St. Andrews. Are you procrastinating wrapping your holiday gifts? Gypsy Beach has teamed up with Salty Cat's Cat Rescue to do the hard part for you. All you need to do is shop with one of our amazing locally owned neighbors, bring the gift to Hitchcock Real Estate, which is right next to Gypsy Beach, and voila! Wrapped gifts in front of your eyes. Salty Cats will be there from 5 to 8 p.m. this Friday night. All right, we're moving on to Saturday. Come out this Saturday morning as we welcome Santa on Beck Avenue. Let's line the streets and then join Santa at Gypsy Beach Treasure Creations to give him your list. You're welcome to take pictures with Santa. The event is free and we cannot wait for Santa. And of course, more shopping opportunities are at the market at St. Andrews, where they've got a little bit of everything, which includes produce, arts and crafts, live music, and food trucks. Always something great to be found at the market at St. Andrews. All right, so in case you missed it, also this Saturday night, join the folks at the Library on Beck for Summer Daniel's closing art show. Grab you a glass of wine. This is a great time for you to get your friends together and browse Summer Daniel's new and existing works. There will be prints and originals available for purchase during the event, and that starts at 6 p.m. On Sundays in St. Andrews, I like to find places to go have brunch, and two of my favorites are Alice's and also Little Village. I believe Alice's starts sometime around 10:30, and Little Village is usually sometime in the afternoon. This Monday, Eli Ingram of Wicked Smooth hosts All Originals Little Fest at the Tap Room starting at 6 p.m. I'm really excited for this one. I get to be on the lineup. I'm not sure who the rest of the folks are, but I'm sure it'll be great. And by the way, I'd like to say congratulations to Jack and Jen, also known as Eli Ingram and Sandy Marlisa, who are releasing their first single together next Saturday, December the 11th. The two just recorded half their upcoming album at Echo Mountain Studios in Asheville, North Carolina, and then they came back down here and recorded the other half of the album at Enlightened Studios down the road in Fort Walton. Their debut album is due out in March, and they are the next guest on the podcast next week, so do not miss that one. I'm really excited for them. That's all for the community events I've got for this week. Tune in next week for more. One of the best things about St. Andrews is that you can see live music every day. That's right. There is live music being played somewhere in St. Andrews 7 nights a week. Fortunately, my friend Ken Schaefer creates and publishes a weekly schedule for St. Andrews as well as most of Bay County. Ken's spreadsheet schedule is updated often when there's any changes. Ken also shares individual music events and is walking the walk and talking the talk when it comes to supporting live music. Not only does Ken supply the music schedules, but he attends several music performances a week and takes fantastic photos of the musicians. As a working musician myself, I feel blessed to have Ken and his wife Donna as treasured members of our local musical family. Make sure you like and follow Ken's page, Salty Sounds in St. Andrews, and Oh Boy Music on Facebook, so that you'll always know where all the live music will happen. Thank you so much, Ken, for everything you do. We are here with Nicole Phillips from Lavished Ministries. For those who are unfamiliar, what is Lavished Ministries and how'd you get your start and what kind of work do y'all do in the community?
So Lavished Ministries, our mission statement is that we exist as a resource, affirming hope and restoring a positive future to women impacted by the commercial sex industry, which can include survivors of sex trafficking. So how we started was back in, oh my goodness, it was probably 2011. I was 17 years old. And I was up late at night watching TV, and I came across a television interview of this woman, and this woman had pink hair, and I turned up the volume because I liked her hair color. So she was sharing her story of how she was working on the streets of Las Vegas for over a decade of her life. And one night she finds herself in a hotel room after seeing a client, and she overdosed on drugs. And she, as she was going into cardiac arrest, just cried out to God and said, God, if you spare my life this one time, I promise to dedicate the rest of my time here on earth to reaching women like me. So for whatever reason, I saw this interview, this 10-minute interview when I was 17. And I just felt an immediate draw to it. I just said, I want to help women like her. She was trafficked. She was a survivor of many things, domestic violence, sexual assault. And her story was just so compelling to me. And so I enrolled into college a year later and ended up graduating with a bachelor's degree. But all throughout my degree, I wanted to go to Las Vegas and work with her. I filled out job applications. I sought out housing and roommates and all of these things, but every door slammed in my face after 4 years. And so I find myself in 2014, 2015, sitting in an office of one of my mentors crying, just saying, have I missed it? Have I missed something? Because I thought I'd be living in Vegas working with this woman and her awesome organization. But that just wasn't the plan for me, apparently. So my mentor really encouraged me to start researching, what is sexual exploitation? What is trafficking? If this desire was birthed in you 4 years ago, maybe it's time to step out in that and do something here. So that's kind of the backstory of how we originally got started. And so we just started reaching out to women in crisis. And not only that, but the women who needed our services would find us. We really didn't have to do much reaching out. It was just God. I believe in God, and he just put women in our path. And now 7 years later, we have helped hundreds of women in various crisis situations, most of them who are in the adult industry or who were formerly in the industry but still need some support and encouragement and resources. So we've been able to help so many women over the past 7 years.
That's wonderful. Thank y'all for all the things you're doing in the community. Are there any particular experiences that have been moving to you that you'd like to share with us, that someone you've helped? Of course, no names.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing is keeping the anonymity of the women we serve is super important. And I should make a caveat, a disclaimer that not every woman in the sex industry is a victim or survivor of human trafficking. And I think sometimes when people hear, oh, you're a ministry that helps women in the adult industry, people automatically in their head associate that with victims of trafficking. And that's one of the reasons why in our mission statement itself, we say, we serve, women in the adult industry, which could include victims of human trafficking, because not every woman is a victim of trafficking in the industry. But there's so many stories I could harp on. But one story I think would be appropriate to share is we came across a woman who was a pastor's daughter, and she grew up in the church. Pastor's daughter, was in the sex industry, was also a survivor of domestic violence. She was in that life and that lifestyle for over 10 years. She had a young son, And I ended up speaking at her parents' church. She escaped the abuse. She escaped all of the situations that she was in. Her father actually helped with her escape. And she happened to be there one Sunday morning when I was speaking at her parents' church. And she did not make a habit of going to church at this point in her life. So I'm speaking at her parents' church, and she approaches me after the service and says, "I need to talk to you." And so we start talking, and through that conversation, that continued over the next few months, next few years, and I became her mentor. And so she said, "Nicole, like this is what I went through, but I never knew that when I was being sold for sex, this was actually sex trafficking. Like I never saw the money. I never, saw any of that. It was people who would sell me as I was unconscious and on drugs and could not give consent. They were making money off of me." And she just didn't understand that trafficking isn't like the movie Taken all the time. It's not just a third world country situation. People can be sold in their own homes, in their own towns, in their own communities. They can be sold by their own family. They can be sold by a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And she just didn't have the words to describe what she went through until she heard what human trafficking was and what sexual exploitation was, what coercion was, what true consent and bodily autonomy is. And through that process of healing and restoration, we really walked with her, and she found employment, and she just started really progressing in life. And we invited her to speak in 2018 at one of our conferences. She came and she told her story on stage for the first time, 30 minutes. So she was just like a natural speaker. And after that event, I went up to her and said, "I want you to work for me one day. Like I want you to work with our ministry." And fast forward to 2020, last year, she has a dream. She wakes up from this dream. She calls me. She says, "Nicole, this is going to sound crazy, but I had a dream that I was working for you October 1st of this year." And I laughed at her. I said, "We don't have money to hire you. Like, that's crazy." About 3 days later, I received a check in the mail from a man who saw a post of ours shared on Facebook. And it was a check for $20,000. And I call him up, find his number. I get a hold of him. And I says, "Thank you so much, but what do you want me to do with this money?" And he says, "You and your board can decide, what you're supposed to do with that money." And immediately I said, "I want to hire Kendra." So I approached my board. We have a board meeting, and it was a unanimous vote to hire her. So October 1st of 2020, we were able to welcome in a survivor of sexual exploitation, a survivor of domestic violence, a survivor of sex trafficking, of all the things. She now serves as our survivor advocate for Lavished Ministries. And it's been a game changer to have a survivor, not only, as a volunteer, but now on staff day in and day out, mentoring and pouring into the lives of other women.
That's what I'd call a miracle.
It's incredible. Her story is wild. It's wild.
Well, that's absolutely wonderful. And so, as you were saying a moment ago, people here living the life, being trafficked. Some women who are working in the industry, it's what they believe to be consensual at the time, and they may not be familiar with the terminology human trafficking. But then there's also women who are taken against their will. You guys help those folks as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We really work both sides of the industry. We have the legal side, so girls who are dancing in the strip clubs, the women in the porn industry, cam girls. We serve them in any way we can, and by serving them, I'm not shoving Bibles down their throat, right? Mm-hmm. We are not doing that. We literally help meet their basic needs if there is a need that they say needs to be met. If we have a woman who says, listen, I don't know how I'm going to pay rent next week, and I have 3 kids and I don't know what I'm going to do, we're able to assist with those needs. Our biggest thing is we don't want any woman to feel like her only option is to sell her body in order to meet a basic need. I'm not talking about going on a cruise or getting plastic surgery or living in a mansion or buying a new Lamborghini. Food, rent, utilities, Christmas gifts for your kids, school supplies. I'm talking basic needs we want to be able to tangibly assist with. So we work the legal side, but also, like you said, the illegal side, the women who are being coerced and sex trafficked against their will. Or like you said, it may not be true consent and they're still trying to figure out the verbiage or their emotions of how they're feeling about what their boyfriend has asked them to do or whatever the case may be. Yeah, so we just help women. We help women in any way that we can.
And what are some signs that the public can look for that a woman may be in danger or under some sort of serious duress?
One common sign I would say is isolation. So usually the trafficker or the abuser, if we're talking about domestic abuse, they will really isolate that victim. All of a sudden, your friend won't want to go to dinner with you anymore, or maybe won't always have their cell phone in their possession, or maybe their cell phones or phone calls are being monitored. Maybe their computer access is being monitored or controlled. Maybe they don't have access to their driver's license or their passport or their social security card. All of that could be red flags. One thing here and there may not be a big deal, but as you start adding up these red flags and collecting them, then there's sometimes usually cause for concern. Another sign could be lack of eye contact. A lot of the women, if we're talking about the girls who are being trafficked, they're often taught not to make eye contact with anyone other than their trafficker. So lack of eye contact could be a big thing. Scars, bruising, brandings, and tattoos. Sometimes a trafficker or an abuser will literally have their initials or their street name engraved or tattooed on their victim as a sign of, hey, you're my property now. Yeah, so there's so many different signs, and it really honestly depends upon the avenue that you're in. For instance, certain signs for medical healthcare workers, they're looking for the tattoos and the brandings. If they're going over the protocol of, hey, what medications are you using? And the woman's not talking or the victim's not talking, but there's someone else answering all the questions for them because they're not allowed to talk. That's a weird thing, right? If you're an adult over 18, you should be able to answer your own questions about your medical history. But if they're not allowed to talk, then someone else is in the room trying to talk for them. That could be a clear sign to medical staff that something is off. Kids at school, right? So kids at school, if we have a 15-year-old girl who may not come from the best life, may be living in a poverty situation, all of a sudden is coming in with her hair done and her nails done and a Gucci bag and new designer shoes. Where did she get those things? Is she talking to maybe an older man or an older boy who is grooming her and is, lavishing these things on her? Because one day he may say, oh, you owe me. You remember that Gucci bag I bought you? Remember those Louis Vuitton shoes I bought you? Remember that time I went and filled up your refrigerator and filled up your gas tank and got your nails and hairs done? Now you owe me. And then that's when the abuse begins.
Absolutely. And I think that educating the public as much as possible is one of the things that will help in the end result, helping these women survive. Yeah. I used to work in a group home with teenage girls, and some of them had indeed been victims of human trafficking. And that was a real eye-opener to me, just a lot of things that I did not know. And so what would you say has been the most important takeaway while helping the women?
When I first saw that interview when I was 17, and then once we eventually launched as an organization when I was 21, I think I went in with a mindset of, okay, we're going to help women and hopefully we'll change their lives. Hopefully God will be a part of changing the course of their lives. And I was just kind of focused on how much of an impact we can make in their lives. We're going to pour out, we're going to give. We're going to love, serve. We're going to do this for them, which is still our heart and our mindset. But I don't think I realized until 7 years later down the road, here we are now, how much of an impact the women would have on my life. The women changed my life. The women changed my staff. Our volunteers, you can speak to any of our volunteers that we've ever had, and they will say, we impact women, but no, these women changed my life. And I think, looking back in the past 7 years, there has just been so many life lessons that I've been taught by women who are in the most horrific situations, but seeing their drive and their passion and their desire and their willingness to survive and do whatever it takes to fight for their freedom and their recovery. That type of boldness, you can't be taught that. That's just ingrained in you sometimes. And we're just so honored to be able to walk alongside women in their journeys.
Absolutely. And it's a miracle that y'all are doing what you're doing. Do y'all provide services to one particular part of Panama City, or is it all of Bay County?
It's all of Bay County. And actually, we get calls from women all over the country.
Oh, wow.
And so, we're able to help when we can, but obviously our focus is Northwest Florida. But yeah, we're just here. We're here as a resource. We believe that, if God is putting people in our paths, it's for a reason. So let's do what we can.
What's something that you wish the public knew about running a nonprofit that they might not be aware of?
Oh my goodness. Running a nonprofit. So we started our nonprofit. I was in my early 20s. So I've been learning as I go. Running a nonprofit, you really have to convey to people the heart behind what you're doing. What's the vision? What's the mission? You have to be organized. You have to be strategic. You have to surround yourself with people smarter than you. That's what I say is I have a great team. They make me look good because I could not do this without them. So I would say, as for nonprofit management, surround yourself with a great team, supportive, and accept criticism. Accept when people say, hey, you're doing this good, but this could be done a lot better. Or, hey, you're really organized with this and you're great at this, but maybe you should try doing it this way. Like, don't be afraid of accepting critiques and some criticism sometimes, because if you're surrounding yourself with supportive people, they're saying it in love and they want to help you succeed and your organization succeed.
Absolutely. Constructive criticism is how you grow.
Absolutely.
And so I was overhearing you a few minutes ago. You have a podcast too? Can you tell us about that?
We do have a podcast. So Kendra, who I was talking about earlier, her and I have a podcast. It's called Stripped Christianity. And actually, we just filmed 4 episodes that will be coming out probably starting in December of this year.
Where can we find this podcast? And is it video and audio or audio only? What's the format?
So right now, our first season was just audio and it's available everywhere. Spotify, Apple. I mean, it's everywhere. However, we just recorded 4 video podcasts. So the audio will be available on the regular streaming networks, but we will also have a video that will be going live on Facebook.
That's awesome. Well, I really look forward to seeing that. Anything cool or interesting that Lavished Ministries is doing for the end of November, any of December?
Yeah. So one thing I will share that we just finished was we had a big Christmas party because we have about 18 individuals. These are women and their children who are in support groups. So we have support groups for women who are survivors of sex trafficking specifically. And we just had a big Christmas party for them. And it was awesome and so much fun. So that was our big end of year thing for the people that we serve. But gearing up for the end of 2021, we were given a $15,000 matching grant. So we are about to launch a huge fundraising campaign starting December 1st. It's called One Less. And the idea is that, like I said earlier, Lavish Ministries, the resources we provide could mean one less sexual encounter performed for basic survival. So we're really gearing up for that and hoping to raise a second $15,000 to match the first $15,000 for a total of $30,000 by December 31st.
Fantastic. So if folks who are listening now are interested in donating, how would they go about that?
Sure. They just go to lavishedministries.com. It's LAVISHED ministries.com/donate. And it's all right there. Just click donate.
Awesome. And aside from monetary contributions, what are the needs of your organization right now?
Yeah, so we're always needing churches or women's groups or small groups or whoever to sponsor outreach gifts. So we do some community outreaches and stuff, and we have very specific items that we request every month. So we're always looking for outreach gift sponsors. If you have a women's group who wants to put together 60 little gift bags, and super easy. It's a way for your ladies or for your group to get involved somehow. For our support groups, we always need people to cook meals.
Really?
Because we feed the women and their children every time. So you're looking at about, 15 to 20 people, a few times a month or once a month or once a quarter, however much you want to commit to. But so cooking meals, there's always just random stuff we need help with, some admin work, writing thank you cards. We always have admin days, usually once a quarter, where we're sending out, massive mailers and we're having to handwrite every address label and all of that stuff. So if you want to get involved, you can just go to lavishedministries.com and click volunteer right on the homepage, and it will lead you to the volunteer sign up form.
Wonderful. If someone were listening and they wanted more information about your support group, would that information also be available on your website?
Well, if they go to our website, they can click, I believe it says like industry girls or support groups or empowerment groups. There's a tab that says something like that. You click that and you can actually contact us and we'll get you hooked up with a support group.
What are your creative intentions for the rest of the year?
So creativity, I have creative ideas. I'm a visionary, so I can see the end goal, but sometimes getting to the end goal is what I struggle with. Definitely focusing on the One Less fundraising campaign is going to be a very creative thing we're going to be focusing on. Our friend JD, who you've met before, he's an artist in town. He designed an amazing logo for us of a sparrow. And the reason why we chose a sparrow to really be the imagery for this campaign is because sparrows, you see a sparrow and there's nothing really super impressive about them, right? They're just very simple birds. It's not like an eagle that's just big and powerful and mighty. A sparrow is just insignificant in the eyes of society, right? However, sparrows are also tend to be symbols of freedom. If you look and people get sparrow tattoos or you even look up like, hey, like what does the sparrow mean? You'll see, oh, they're a very insignificant, simple bird, but they're also symbols of freedom. And so we chose a sparrow just because we're all simple humans, right? There's nothing special or particularly amazing about me, but God still uses us. And we believe that God will use the women we serve for his purposes. We're all little sparrows, and that's okay because God still uses us.
Well, what an appropriate symbol. So one thing I wanted to remember to ask, because I heard JD ask this on Watching Paint Dry, which is his video series on YouTube that you should all check out, is I know that Lavished is taken from a Bible verse. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, our name is taken from 1 John 3:1. Which says how great the Father's love that he has lavished upon us, that we should all be called the children of God. So once again, reiterating that, we're just simple, finite beings, but we serve an infinite God who can, do whatever he wants with our lives.
Absolutely. And so one more time for our listeners, how can folks reach you online and beyond?
Sure. You can follow us on social media. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook. You can also visit our website at lavishedministries.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here and all that you and your volunteers and staff do in the community. I think it's miraculous and beautiful and absolutely necessary. And God bless you all. And until next time, keep St. Andrews salty. For this week's Old News segment, I thought I'd read a piece I found in the St. Andrews Bay News from December the 4th, 1928. This is called Ancient Prayer, and I believe we can still benefit from this today. An ancient prayer. This prayer was found on the walls of an old cathedral in the little town of Chester-on-Avon in England. There is so much robust common sense in it to this day. Give me a good digestion, Lord, and also something to digest. Give me a healthy body, Lord, and sense to keep it at its best. Give me a healthy mind, good Lord, to keep the good and pure in sight, which seeing sin is not appalled, but finds a way to get it right. Give me a mind that is not bound, that does not whimper, whine, or sigh. Don't let me worry over much about the fussy thing called I. Give me a sense of humor, Lord. Give me the grace to see a joke, to get some happiness from life and to pass it on to other folk. I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I hope you'll take some time this month to visit historic St. Andrews. Please bring your family and your friends who might be visiting for the holidays. I want to thank everyone for pressing play and for all the kindness that y'all have shown the podcast. You might have noticed that every episode is ad-free. Because of your generous donations, I am able to keep the lights on, so to speak, and ensure an ad-free experience for everyone. If you found value in these episodes and would like to make a one-time donation, please visit our coffee page. I'll link it in the show description below. Upcoming guests include Jack and Jen, also known as Eli Ingram and Sandy Marlisa. I hope you'll tune in to find about their journey recording their upcoming album at the famous Echo Mountain Studios in Asheville, North Carolina. That's going to be a great one. I can't wait for y'all to hear it. If you liked our theme song, it was written by me and recorded by Dave Schwartz on the campus of Gulf Coast State College. The rest of the show was written and recorded by me in my music room. Till next time, keep St. Andrews salty.
Red lipstick, so thick, and a push-up bra. Tramp stamp, stretch marks, and a lacy thong. 'Cause she's a Jezebel, St. Andrew Jezebel. 'Cause she's a Jezebel.